back in here, so it's nice to see some familiar faces. So I'm Grace. I graduated from here about 2 years ago, and this is my boyfriend, Kevin. Fun story, we actually met in the All Saints gym. It was two gyms ago, last June 29th.
Many moons ago.
So just a little bit of backstory on us, so you don't think we're just some weirdos giving you a talking period. So we met June 2019. We became really good friends, and we were friends for about 6 months. And then December of 2019, he asked me to discern marriage with him, aka start dating. And we've been going strong ever since, almost a year. So that's just a little bit of backstory.
Yeah, thank you, exactly. So I'm 21 and Grace is 19, so we're really not very far off with you guys. And we've been dating now out of the month. It's been almost a year, so it's been amazing. So tonight I just want to talk to you about how to really achieve purity and still have like the coolest relationship ever. Because the two don't always seem to coincide when you're thinking about it, but believe it or not, they do. So we're going to talk about honesty and communication. It's kind of the pivotal part, the crux of all relationships. Gotta have that down. Then we're going to talk about confession, the need for that, so we're going to run through that, and then lastly, emotional chess. It's also really important. So first, in talking about communication and honesty, I mean, it just goes without saying, you need to have that down before you start a relationship. You can't just meet someone and go on a date, 2 dates, and then all of a sudden you're dating because there's no time to really get to know the person and to decide if you want to discern date, if you want to discern marriage. Before that, you have to discern if you want to date. So the most important part is being honest with each other and communicating. This is really important, especially if you're someone who maybe struggles with porn addiction, or maybe you have a chronic history of falling with previous girlfriends or boyfriends in the past. That person that you're about to discern marriage with needs to know that before they say yes to even discern that. So having that honesty and that communication and open line is huge and it matters. The other important thing is prayer. It really makes a difference. Trust me, I've seen it both sides. And when we pray for each other, when we start that up habitually, every week we do a holy half hour, for instance, for the other person, that makes the relationship like 100%. And praying together. Those two things are essential to do.
So I think it's important to note that every relationship is different. There's no objective right way to date. There are some tools you can use to help better direct your relationship. But it's really crucial to set before you start dating that you're saving sex for marriage. If you don't agree on that before going in, it's going to be harder to make that a steadfast rule and commitment between the two of you. And with that comes a difference between the guy sharing your morals and respecting your morals. If he just respects you, that's in the right direction, but he won't have the same commitment in his heart to do the same. So it'll be harder for him to stick to that. So you guys want to be on the same page, you want to share the same morals, and just always make sure to just keep coming back to that. Like, we're saving it for marriage, it's going to be good. Talk about your boundaries to make sure that happens. And you're not perfect. You're not expected to be. You're going to make some mistakes along the way, and that's okay. It's really important to not beat yourself up about it. To talk about it, go to confession together. I mean, confession dates are great. They really help grow the relationship. So just talk about it, go to confession, reinstate that you're saving sex for marriage, go over your boundaries, and just keep going on from there. And forgiveness. Don't beat yourself up, but also learn to forgive yourself, forgive the other person, and that God forgives you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you want to have the best date ever, start with confession. I guarantee you it is life-changing. Just trust me on that one. This is a specific note I want to say to the men real quick. Girls find you attractive if you're confident in your ability to control yourselves. I don't want to say that again because it's a lot to say. Just remember that. If you forget everything else in this talk, remember that there's nothing more attractive to a man. Ladies, nod your heads if I'm right. There's nothing more attractive about a man, and a lot of nods, if you can control your own sexual abilities, your own emotions, and things that you need to lead in that relationship. You need to have control of yourself before you can have control of the situation. That's hard, but it pays off big time. Also, talking about boundaries, this goes back to communication. That's important before and during a relationship. If you're in the relationship and boundaries get crossed, don't say, oh, well, it's just gonna happen. It's not gonna happen again. Guarantee you it will until you bring it up. And you say, hey, remember that boundary thing we talked about? Oh, yeah, right, yeah, right. And then back on track. If it's not said in the middle of the relationship, it will just atrophy like that. So maybe like every other day you're talking about it, but do it. It is so worth it.
And I'm sure everyone here has heard about most of what we're talking about. I mean, it's not an unknown topic. But another form of chastity that is less well known is emotional chastity. And I feel very strongly about this one. I think it's difficult, especially when you're in that stage of you like each other, you're talking about dating, but you're not dating. So there are still some things that you shouldn't go too deep on because you're not, committed to that person yet. But one important aspect in a relationship, emotionally chaste, is, discussing your comfort level with hanging out one-on-one with a person of the opposite sex, or just having extensive conversation with them, be it in person, on the phone, texting. And honestly, it's probably not going to be okay with both of you to hang out one-on-one with another person of the opposite sex, and you're honestly better for it, right? Because you've got your best friend who you're dating, and so it really doesn't matter. And group things are perfectly fine. And that'll also help not become so exclusive, because you don't want to get to a point where you see nobody ever and it's just the two of you. So it's good to keep your friends, find mutual friends who don't feel like third wheels around you. Yes.
Don't be daunted by that. It actually happens naturally. So like for me, that was like before I met Grace, that would have been like, you mean I don't get to hang out with girls at coffee? What? And then like a month in a relationship, I'm like, it's been like a month since I like went out to coffee with a girl. I didn't even notice. So don't worry about that one. It happens very, very quickly when you're really in love with someone. So just remember that.
And I think one of the last things we'll leave you with as a key for emotional chastity. And this, like I said, every relationship is different, so this isn't necessarily a hard, steadfast rule, but what works for me, what works for us is not planning too far ahead in the relationship. So obviously we're discerning marriage, but we're not engaged yet. So there are just some things that we both feel is not appropriate or emotionally chaste to bring up now, especially when it comes to like specific plans or whatever. So you want to leave room, God, to work, and don't become set on your own plans that you start to miss what He's showing you is His plan for you. I just think it's important to leave that room there and just be open to His will, because that's going to lead your life. So.
Exactly. And my final note, after all this is said, and remember all this in the crux of your relationship, have fun. Don't be stingy, don't be scrupulous. That's also the biggest unattractive thing ever, is if you're like, I don't know, my shoulder's a little too exposed. Like, don't be scrupulous, just live your life, date the person you're dating, and figure it out as you go, but make sure you're communicating. Because if you're communicating, then you're much more likely, in fact, I think you're completely likely to succeed comparatively with those who don't. I can guarantee that, if it's with the person you're meant to be with. And yeah, I think that settles it. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.